Hello everybody, my name is Chosen Folks, and today, after the Lightning got beat by the Rangers 4-0, we're going to do my Stanley Cup playoff predictions now. And before we get into those predictions, just want to give a reminder, these are strictly my opinions and thoughts, and I'm going to really stay unbiased here, so some takes you may not like, some takes you will like. It just is what it is. We all have our own opinions, so we're going to be respectful here. I'm going to respect every team here. For the bracket, I'll post it up on the screen. I'm going to design my own little bracket, and then we'll add on to it. We'll go into how many games the series will last, and then obviously who will win. And I will also give you my thoughts. We'll try to make it quick since we have a lot of games to technically go over, so let's get right into it. Also, we are going to begin on the west side of the bracket first, where the President's Trophy winner is. Beginning with the first matchup, we have the President's Trophy winners, the Winnipeg Jets, going against the St. Louis Blues. And for this one, you have Winnipeg, who started really hot off to start the year, and St. Louis, who did not start off hot to the year, and then they ended up getting Jim Montgomery. And Montgomery ended up getting them to the playoffs. They are the last wild card, but that's fine, honestly. So with Winnipeg, personally, I expect them to win. Connor Hellebuyck has been on his A game, but we're going to the playoffs, so things can get different. St. Louis is a physical side, and one thing I've seen is Jim Montgomery in his playoff history, he has not done very well, so we're gonna see what he does here. And also, I believe this is going to be a goaltending matchup, but I also believe Jordan Binnington will allow a few cheeky goals, so we're just gonna have to see. But I have Winnipeg winning this one in 6 games. It could go either way. Welcome to the playoffs, but this time I'm gonna have Winnipeg winning this one in 6. The second matchup features the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche. All respect in the world here, but I expect Dallas to probably get steamrolled here by Colorado. Dallas has a lot of injuries. I know Tyler Seguin just is coming back from the LTIR. Gabriel Landeskog, I don't know if he'll actually play in the playoffs, but either way, I believe Colorado is very motivated. And on the other hand, they are going against Mikko Rantanen, and Rantanen is going against Colorado. And I think Rantanen has been pretty cocky this year. I'm going to be honest. I know he's their top point producer, but I just don't see how Dallas is going to hold off Colorado. Colorado has fixed their goaltending, and Dallas, on the other hand, we've seen how Jake Ottinger has played in the playoffs, so don't be surprised if they call in Casey Smith in this series at some point. I really thought about this one, but this is going to be a 7-game series in my book. Moving on to where you see the Pacific Division host, we have the Vegas Golden Knights going against the Minnesota Wild. There's not really much going on for Minnesota. They're also not very healthy, and Vegas just knows when to turn on the switch for playoff hockey. So it's just very easy to say Vegas is going to get through this. I'm being a little nice here. We're going to say Vegas wins this in 6 games. On the Minnesota side, there's just a lot of concerns. Their goal scoring really is not there. They're not looking really good either. They almost fell to the last wild card to St. Louis, but they managed to pick up some wins. And I would not be shocked if Philip Gustafson has a rough time in these playoffs, and we possibly see Marc-Andre Fleury for the final time. So we're just going to have to see, but I expect Vegas to absolutely pull through with this. And for the last matchup out in the West, we have the LA Kings going up against the Edmonton Oilers. The LA Kings have home advantage, but I don't think it's going to matter, honestly. I know we've talked about how they're really good at home, but welcome to the playoffs, as mentioned. So other than that, Edmonton is really good on their power play. They can kill penalties, and I just believe that some way, somehow, it's like the Toronto Maple Leafs going against the Boston Bruins. Edmonton's just going to come on top here. I have this one being a 7-game series, with Edmonton winning this one in 7 in LA. So we'll just have to see. They also got the Rocket Richard, winner of the Draisaitl. I also believe that LA has a lot of depth, but I believe this time around it's just going to keep looking like the same thing how it has in the past. Moving out into the East, we have the Battle of Ontario, the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Ottawa Senators here. This will be a tough series. It will probably be an ugly series, but at the end of the day, I believe Toronto will win this series in 6 games. And people are like, Toronto's going to get past the first round. Well, I'm going to give you my big reason here. Craig Berube as the head coach. He's going to make sure this team does not falter. And if they falter, it's going to be all on the players. It looks like some of these players understand that. Mitch Marner's producing a lot. John Tavares is scoring goals like crazy. Their top 6 in general, it's just really fast to deal with. So that may be the difference maker. I know Ottawa has a wild third line that can shut down lines. And then they also have Linus Ullmark, but Ullmark hasn't done good in playoffs. But then I will also bring up the fact that Boston decides to switch goalies in the playoffs, so I don't really understand that. But either way, I think he'll do a lot better in these playoffs because the net's all his now. But at the end of the day, I believe Toronto will win this one in 6 games. Moving on to the Battle of Florida, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning going against the Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. Again, for Florida, if they were healthy, if they didn't have players out of the lineup, maybe I'd consider them for sure. A lot of their players aren't producing what they were last year, and I mean, that's fair at the end of the day. But Aaron Ekblad is still suspended. I don't think we're going to see Matthew Tkachuk, and if we do, he's not going to be his 100% self. I know even if you have his 80% self, but I don't even think he's 80%. We'll just have to see, but I'm not expecting a lot. I'm not too impressed with Seth Jones and Brad Marchand getting added. It looked good on paper, but it hasn't really so much panned out. I know Marchand will be a pest, but right now I just don't see how these things will pan out. Tampa made some good trade acquisitions too, but they'll be without Oliver Bjorkstrand. But we'll see. They've moved the lines around a lot, and they got some good combos going on. So I'm going to have Tampa winning this one in 6 games. I just think this is the year where they're not going to let Florida get back to the final. And the respect is so much there now that both of them are Stanley Cup winners. So very cool to at least see that. Moving on to the bottom part of the bracket where you have your Metro Division hosts. We have the Washington Capitals against the Montreal Canadiens. Not a matchup, let alone I did not think that Montreal would be in this situation at all. So shout out to them. For Washington, ever since Ovechkin broke the record, it seems like they've shut down a bit. Dylan Strom's still doing a lot of work for Washington, and it's weird because when Ovi doesn't score goals, everyone else is scoring goals. They're getting goaltending, they're getting defense, and Montreal is new to this playoff thing with a lot of players. I know they have Marty St. Louis, who is the head coach, but this will be his first time coaching the playoffs. He's won a Stanley Cup in Tampa. He has some players with some Stanley Cup Final experience, but I'm going to be really nice here for this one. I'm going to say Washington wins this in 6 games. Montreal really has nothing to lose. They have to be really happy to be here right now, so I believe they'll manage to pick out a couple wins here. And for the last matchup, we have the Carolina Hurricanes against the New Jersey Devils. And the New Jersey Devils are probably cooked right now. They have a ton of injuries. Jack Hughes is being one of them. That's a massive one. Jonathan Siegenthaler is another big injury. Dougie Hamilton, even if he comes back, I believe he should be coming back. We can see the 100% version. They're just injured all around. Their goaltending has been pretty bad too. They've lost more games than won games, so that's one team since the Four Nations that has not looked good at all, and looks like they have just been falling out of the sky. So for this series, I have Carolina winning this one in 5. New Jersey will end up probably stealing a game here, but that's just probably how it's going to go. So other than that, we're going to move on to the second round, and we're going to go back out to the West. The first matchup we have in the second round out in the West is the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche. And like I said earlier, the playoffs is the playoffs. So Winnipeg, I think they're going to get shocked here by Colorado. They're going to let off a little bit. Colorado's going to figure some things out. They've built a lot of depth, so I feel they're going to continue to grow throughout these playoffs, and they're going to be very energetic, especially if Landeskog is playing. He may not even see a lot of time on ice, but I feel the morale is very high over there. In Winnipeg, I just feel at one point they're not going to know how to get through adversity, and they're going to end up losing this one in a 6-game series. The other West matchup, we have the Vegas Golden Knights going against the Edmonton Oilers. For this one, I feel Vegas is much more prepared for a deep playoff run. Edmonton has not been the same as what they were at the end of the season last year, and when they got to the final. They still got some weapons all over their team, but I feel Vegas is just built all around, and I feel this one's going to come down to goaltending. So we'll see what Stuart Skinner's like in the playoffs, but I expect Adin Hill to be himself when they did win that Stanley Cup with Vegas. I'll have Vegas winning this one in a 6-game series. Switching out to the East, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm going to get into some stuff, and do not think I'm delusional. Do not think I'm biased, because hopefully this proves I'm not. So we have Toronto here. They just won the Atlantic Division, which it's a good sign. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic or anything, but a lot of these players haven't won an Atlantic Division title. It's not really anything of importance, but it's a good step. It really is a good step, because Tampa won a few Atlantic Division titles, and then now look where they have got. They got those 2 Stanley Cups in 2021 and 2022. Obviously the one in 2004 as well. So it's a good stepping stone for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And in this series, I'm concerned for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They can score like crazy, but all year, Toronto has shut them down. And I don't see how Tampa's going to find a way. They're going to compete like crazy. It'll go to the 7-game series, but this time around, I think it's going to be all Toronto here. They look like they're all gassed right now. John Tavares is out of contract at the end of the year. Mitch Marner also out of contract at the end of the year. You can tell that these players are playing for something, and it doesn't really look like there's much pressure on them. It looks like they're really enjoying themselves, so I'm going to have Toronto going to the Eastern Conference Final, believe it or not. Moving on to the last matchup on the East, we have the Washington Capitals and Carolina Hurricanes. And I talked about how Washington has people who score goals and Ovechkin doesn't score goals. But I feel that's all going to fall apart. I've been asking myself all season, when is that going to fall apart? It looks like it has been starting to happen as of late. And that's probably the wrong time for that to happen. And I just believe that Carolina is going to shock them, take them out in 6 games, honestly. And Washington's just going to get a 2nd-round exit. Pretty traditional for their team, honestly. No offense. They did win 1 Stanley Cup against my team, so I was at the Game 6 in DC. So, no hate there. No hate, but that's just how I see it. I feel Washington's collapse is on the verge of happening, but it should be all Carolina here. All right, we're going to get into the conference finals now. Moving on with the Western Conference Finals, we have the Colorado Avalanche and the Vegas Golden Knights. And what a series this is setting up to be, if we see it, obviously. But I'm predicting it's happening. Colorado and Vegas, it's probably not going to be as physical, but Colorado has skill, they have depth. So does Vegas, which is crazy. But I feel we're going to start seeing some heroes on the Colorado Avalanche that are going to be able to take down the Vegas Golden Knights here. And they're going to end up finding their way to the Stanley Cup Final. We're going to say this one ends up going out to a 7-game series here. Moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs and Carolina Hurricanes. Very interesting matchup that I've put together here. No, it's personally to myself, it concerns me that I have this matchup, but I've went with my gut of what I've seen and also what I've seen in my own team. So that's all the decisions on this end. But I have a little concern with Toronto that I have not brought up just yet. It's the fact that they have a duo goaltending pair. And if you have that during the playoffs, that could be why they get knocked out all the way in the first round if they start playing around with that. And I feel Carolina's going to get on them early, and we could see where they end up switching between Stars and Wool. I don't know what's going to be like. I don't even know who's the starter is going to start out to be. I think it's going to be Stars, but we're just going to have to see. Carolina also has the same thing, but I assume Rod Brind'Amour do a lot better with a goaltending pair and not make it an issue. So good on him. I've never seen Craig Berube have to deal with this. He's done it so well in the regular season, but we've seen how the regular season with this dual goaltending pair never has panned out in the playoffs. So I feel that's going to be really what bites Toronto here. And we'll see Carolina get through here in 6 games. Lastly, we have now set up a Stanley Cup Final between the Colorado Avalanche and the Carolina Hurricanes. It's very weird that we have this series, and I'm sure Mikko Rantanen would be absolutely livid seeing this after he couldn't work anything out with both teams. So kind of a funny series if you think about it. At the end of the day, I feel Colorado's going to end up winning their 4th Stanley Cup over the Carolina Hurricanes. It is, I feel, a make or break for Rod Brind'Amour. He's always been getting knocked out in the conference finals. Here he is in the Stanley Cup Finals, so if they can just make that step to get to the final, I think they'll do great, and it'll do a lot for Carolina Hurricanes. They have a lot of experience too. I feel Colorado just has a lot more skill and some depth, and the goaltending may get them at the end of the day, which is where we talked about that goaltending duo of Carolina. Will it come into play in these finals? Who knows? But that's going to be everything on that. So I'm going to have Colorado winning the 2025 Stanley Cup in 6 games. Alright, so those were all of my predictions. I may upload some videos throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs of what I think about each round and see possibly where this bracket went wrong. Obviously, it's fun to predict brackets because you get to come up with your own little story. I've tried to come realistic here in my opinion. I mean, some people won't think some of this is realistic, but this is how I'm seeing a lot of things. But I've seen a lot worse brackets in my opinion. So, other than that, I'm going to wrap this one up here. I am very excited for these Stanley Cup playoffs, and you should be too. So other than that, I hope you enjoy the playoff throughout these next 2 months. And hey, maybe I'll end up at a Stanley Cup Final game. Other than that, y'all take it easy and take care.